Welcome to Alternative Dog Moms Podcast. I'm Kimberly Gauthier, the creator of Keep the Tail Wagging. For the past 9 years, I've been blogging about raw feeding, pet wellness, and life as a crazy dog mom. I've seen massive improvements in my dog's health since I started raising my dogs naturally, and I'm passionate about sharing my experience to help other pet parents.
I'm Erin Scott. For the past 9 years, I've been researching and learning everything I can about healing cancer, allergies, autoimmune, and mystery illnesses in both my dogs and myself. And I can't wait to share with you everything I've learned on this journey. As the Alternative Dog Moms, we're bringing you all the latest dog health news that we're following and sharing the tips, tricks, and resources we learn along the way. Now, let's get started. Hello, Kimberly.
Hello, Erin. How's it going?
Good. It's a gorgeous day here in Baltimore.
It has been raining for 3 days straight here in the Pacific Northwest. Surprise! It was raining so badly yesterday that I got, meatloaf and potatoes and mashed potatoes. That just sounded perfect.
Comfort food.
Yeah. And when Johan got home, I told him what I had, and he was just like, that just sounds perfect. And I'm like, right? I mean, it's nothing we never eat. And it's just like, but yesterday it was just so dreary. And I mean, it's not even cold. So it's just dreary. Ugh.
Yeah, it really makes a difference. Like when it's like getting into day 2, day 3, and you're like, will I ever see the sun again?
I know with us, it's like day 29, day 30. And we're just sort of like, what's happening? Everyone's looking at each other. You know, we always joke that you can always tell the people who live here versus the transplants, because the people who were born and raised here, we don't actually use umbrellas that often.
Oh.
I mean, I have umbrellas or places. I can't tell you where one is at the moment, but I'm sure I can find one. But it's just such a pointless thing, because it usually, if it's raining really hard, you just go inside. And you wait for it to stop because there's going to be a wave, and then you go out. But for the most part, you know, it's just raining enough to get you a little, like enough to ruin your hair, but not really enough to put up an umbrella. And even if you did have an umbrella, it wouldn't protect your hair. So it's just like, one day I just was like, I'm not going to carry an umbrella anymore. And I never did again.
I hate them.
That's a very strong word.
I just find it like very annoying. I'm always trying to juggle too many things. Like if it's windy, it's just going to get like turned upside down. And then I got to deal with like getting it to dry out. And it's so very annoying. So I just have like a nice like raincoat. Mm-hmm. It's actually from like the men's department, but I love it. And it's like vented or something. So it like you don't overheat in it. You know, it doesn't get like sticky. Yeah, so I usually just, I'm like a little kid. I just got my hood up. And
I like my rain boots. I have rain boots that are so comfortable. Years ago, it's funny because I posted something on social media a couple weeks ago showing my little shoe collection. And what's so sad is that is a little bit of my shoes. I have a lot of shoes, because before dogs, I was a shoe person. And now I have dogs and my shoes just don't make any sense anymore. And I actually totally forgot what I was about to say. I just started thinking about, oh my God, I love shoes so much.
Rain boots.
Rain boots. There you go. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for bringing it right back. So I don't buy a bunch of shoes anymore, but I bought the rain boots. And since I don't buy tons of shoes anymore, I decided to get the nicest, most comfortable, like best reviewed rain boots. And they were Uggs rain boots. And I don't even remember how much they cost, but they were worth every single penny. I have had them for several years now. And I wear them, I won't say every day because we do have summers here, but I had them on today. I had them on yesterday. I mean, I wear them all the time. I can walk the dogs in them. I can do yard work in them. I love those rain boots.
I need a good pair of rain boots. I will say I have these shoes that I love. They're like waterproof sneakers. And so you can go out in the rain, or I can go walk the dogs or something and wear sneakers and still have the comfort of a sneaker, but without, like all the
wet socks.
Yes,
Oh, it's
because
the
wet socks
worst.
are like the worst thing in the world.
Especially when it's like you're halfway through the walk, but going in the opposite direction. And it's like,
Yeah.
we still have to finish this part of it. And my
It's
toes
like
are,
squishing
I
and
know.
yeah.
The dogs don't care. And it's just like, it feels like there's speakers now, just that sound, just pulsing every step you take. It's such a pain in the neck.
I think they're called Vessi
Hmm.
sneakers, but yeah, they're like 100% waterproof sneakers, and I don't wear them every single day. They're not like as good as my everyday sneakers, but
Hmm.
they're definitely like good for the rain.
When we started the pandemic, when our company sent everyone home, I decided my biggest worry was that I would end the pandemic weighing more than what I started. Like I would just sit at home because I love the past few days. I haven't been sitting down all day. I got gardening and stuff done, but I have been watching movies. I caught up on movies. And that's what I love. And, and I'm a snacker. So I went to the movies last night and Johan was like, "You're going by yourself?" And it's like, "Yes, I am." Because I was going to go see something I knew he wouldn't want to see. And I got a small popcorn, some red vines, and an iced tea. And I ate half the popcorn, most of the red vines, and half the iced tea. And that's so many calories. But I
Yes.
love it. It makes me so happy. And I was afraid that these little calorie things, which I happen like every now and then, it would start happening on a daily basis. And I would come back to work completely, and especially because at the beginning of the pandemic, they were saying, like all the people who were high risk. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to become a high risk. So the point of all of that was that we were on a morning call and I was expressing my concern over the fact that I think I'm going to just sit at home and not do anything but eat all day long. And this is going to be a problem. I need to start walking my dogs, but I don't have any good walking shoes. I have shoes for a random walk, but for a really long, good walk, I needed good walking shoes. And one of my coworkers recommended, I want to say it starts with an H, but I don't remember the name of the shoes. And they are so comfortable. I love them. They were also, I don't know if they are considered expensive. They're way more than what I'm used to paying for sneakers. I get my sneakers from the Skechers at Costco. So they're like
Oh.
$35. These were more than twice that, but they are the best shoes. And it's just like, this is why people really pay a lot of money for shoes. Not
Yeah.
because they're pretty, but because the best shoes are because I come from the Sex of the City type of, when I was younger, that's the life that I wanted. And so I bought shoes. The higher they were up, then yeah, that's what I wanted. But now it's like, okay, who cares about Manolo Blahniks? I want some UGG rain boots.
So I don't know if you knew this, but I'm 5'10", so it's like super annoying wearing heels because then I'm like 6 feet tall.
And I'm 5'3". So it's like I used to wear 3-inch heels every day because I wanted to be taller. When 'cause I've been at my day job for 18 years. And when I started, I think for the first 6 months, people thought I was like 5'6" or, 5'7". And then one day, I was standing next to someone who was complaining about being the only short person in the office. And I kicked off my shoes and shrunk down to her height. And everyone was just like, what? It's like, I'm like, yep, I am a shorty.
Well, it's very annoying being tall too.
So it's like, I don't even have a grass is greener type of thing where I can just envy you because you're just like, stay in your own yard. It sucks over here too.
Well, it's like it's very hard to find pants. Everything is annoying.
Yeah, pants are easy because I can just roll them up. I have a couple pair where I just roll them up. And what's funny is that it's so I don't trip on them or get them dirty. But people are like, "Oh my God, those are so cute. That is so great that you rolled them up." And they're like I did a fashion thing. And it's like, nope, that's not me. It's just this is comfortable. But yeah, so jeans are easy for me to find. For a long time, before when they used to make jeans because they thought all women were shaped like 12-year-old boys, then it was hard for everyone to find jeans. But then I don't know who did it first, but I feel like it was like Gap. came out and was like, guess what? We found out that women are all shaped differently. And it's like, what? And then after that happened, it became really easy for me to find jeans. And the worst part though is I will find a brand of jeans. And when it comes to jeans, I have so many pairs of jeans because I love them so much. And that's another thing that I'll invest money, not ridiculous amounts of money though, but I'll pay for some good jeans.
Yeah.
But if I find a brand that I really love, I will be devoted to that brand. And then one day something changes. It's probably me, my body changed, but I blamed the company. And it's just like, damn it. And then I have all these jeans. So I have quite a few brands. I found there's a site called Poshmark. I learned about this I think it was before Poshmark, because there was some other site that people used to do this on too. Maybe it was just eBay. Probably was just eBay. But I learned that in certain areas of the country where the brands will have a distribution center. So like, what is it like? What is that place? Banana Republic. And it was actually specifically about Banana Republic and that whole section of companies. And in their distribution center, someone told me that it was an employee told me that when they're taking boxes out of the truck, if a box is broken or damaged in a way that was opened it just even a little bit, even if everything inside is completely protected, they don't send the box to the stores. They set it aside and it goes off to you can do auctions where people will come and get auctions of boxes. Or they go to like the outlet malls around the country. So, because I was wondering, how are all these people selling these brand new, Banana Republic jeans or whatever the case may be, and that's how they were able to do it. So
sounds like the mob or something. They fell off the truck.
I know, right? And what's so funny is that now we're talking about it, it sounds so shady. But at the time, I was just like, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. But it's like, but now it's just like, huh. But yeah, so that's what I would do because the jeans. There's one pair of jeans I'm really horrible with brand names, but I started buying them. Oh, I got it. What is that? Have you heard of that thing? What is it called? Stitch Fix?
Oh, mm-hmm.
I did Stitch Fix in the beginning just for fun. And it is a lot of fun. It just gets expensive. And so I was introduced to a lot of brands through Stitch Fix. And then that's how I learned about Poshmark is because people would, if you sent anything back, you didn't get this extra discount. But if you kept everything, you got, I think, like an additional 20% off discount. And so people would just keep everything. And then the stuff they didn't want, they would sell it on Poshmark.
Oh, okay.
And so if there was something that I really loved, I can go on Poshmark and just find it. And so I started finding a lot of these really cool jeans on Poshmark. And probably like 6 months later or so, a friend and I were walking through Nordstrom's and I saw a sign for the brand. And I was like, oh, these are the jeans that I love. And, this other lady walks by. She's like, oh, yeah, those are the best jeans. And I was just like, oh, yay. And I went and I wasn't even really looking at the price. It just caught my attention. And I was just like, oh, no, these are not the jeans that I love because they were like over $100. And I live, in a rural town and we have our own outlet mall. Jeans cost $25 to $30 here. They do not cost over $100. So it was just like quite the shock.
That's one of the things, we're in Baltimore and we go to like the Delaware beach for vacation usually. And we always rent a house like where we can have the dogs and on the beach and all that stuff. But you also have all the outlet malls in Delaware and there's no sales tax. So that's always one of our favorite parts of vacation. And I will say my husband enjoys that much more than I do. I am like not a shopper, but like he will drag me into like all the outlets.
That is so great. I used to be a shopper. It was fun. I don't shop the things. I just don't get excited about it anymore. If I went someplace, I think one time we were out and about and we came across an Asian market. And it was the first time that I went to an Asian market as a raw feeder. And I was so excited. And it was just sort of like, I was the dogs and I knew we turned the corner and we were heading to the park and I knew what was going. I was just like bouncing in my seat. Johan's looking at me like I've lost my mind. He wouldn't come into the store with me. And I was just like, so like, please just come into the store. And finally he came in the store and I know he was like completely uncomfortable. And I'm like can barely contain my excitement and was like looking at all, like, oh my God, look at this. Oh my God, look at this. And I was just so excited. And everyone else was looking at me like, yes, this is here. And oh my God, it was so amazing. That's what gets me excited now.
I know what I wanted to ask you. Is
Okay.
there anything that you feed your dogs that like kind of grosses you out?
Oh, that's a good. Okay. Yes. Actually, it's funny because not much grosses me out anymore. I haven't fed my dogs a whole like rabbit. Um, I've I just don't think I could do that.
Yeah.
But they've had like the freeze dried rabbit heads and feet and stuff like that, and I don't have a problem with that. I think it's weird, but the only thing that really grosses me out is smelt, and I
Mm.
won't feed it because it's so slippery, slimy. And I can barely get, and I'm just, to me, even though my dogs have no problems eating it, or I can like mix it into food, it wouldn't be a problem. But in my head, when I have fed it in the past, I just envision somehow dropping it, and then we're slipping and sliding all over the floor, and I'm trying to pick them all up, and I can't get them because they're slipping. And it's a
It's a
whole,
mental thing.
yeah, it's a whole weird thing with me. So,
Because I will say, the heads and the feet thing kind of gets to me. I don't do a lot of that. And this is one that like was probably funny, but I don't feed them a lot of pork. And our vet had a couple extra bags of she loves this one brand of raw food, and she gets it like right from the distributor, and she had some extra ones that she had picked up thinking somebody else was going to get them, and they didn't take them. So she's like, do you want these? So I was like, yeah, we'll take them. And then I realized they were pork. And then I'm kind of like, oh, you always get weird about pork. Honestly, because I follow Esther the Wonder Pig on Facebook. And I always feel like I'm eating Esther. So pork, I'm like weird about pork. So anyway, I finally like, it's like the only thing that was left in the freezer, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to deal with this pork. So we have like a food scale, and I get everybody's containers out, and I weigh out the stuff, and Nino was going nuts. Like he comes like running in the kitchen, like, oh my God, what is this amazing smell? And he like, and he usually doesn't like bug me. Like they might watch me, but like he's usually playing with his ball, and he like would not leave me alone. And like when I was like putting it in his bowl, he's like, oh my God, that's for me? Like, and I mean, he like ran so fast across the kitchen that he like skid and like had to like do like a U-turn to get to his bowl. And I was like, oh my God, apparently Nino is like loves pork. And now I feel like I have been like having this weird mental hang up and not let this poor guy eat pork. And he loves pork. So I'm going to have to get over this one.
Pork is huge in my house. And in fact, it's so big that I place orders of it in advance, like special orders for it, because sometimes we're not able to get pork. So it's huge. But my worry about pork, and it's not the trichinosis, like to anyone listening, that's not a concern with human grade pork, but at least as the day of this recording, it's not a concern. If something happens after this, is not me, but it's the fat. I always worry about the fat. And, I feed lean proteins, and pork and duck are the fattier proteins. So it balances out in the end. But it's one of those things where I always think about the fat of pork and, the calories that it's adding. But I still feed it. It is a favorite. Even my cat. I mean, my cat let me know that because he eats small batch, and I was feeding him like chicken, beef, and turkey and duck. And he was just like, I'm not feeling the duck. So I gave the duck to the dogs and was like, oh, well, there's pork. So I'll get pork to replace the duck. And I fed him the pork. And all of a sudden he was like, this is all I'm ever going to eat again. You can put the other stuff to the side. And, I would go and add the chicken. And sometimes he would be like, okay, I'll have some chicken. If I tried to put like the duck in, because I was like, well, maybe he's like, I put the duck in, and it was just sort of like, no, I don't know how many times I've had to tell you this, but I do not eat this. I eat pork. And so I scooped the duck back out because my cat walked in a room, just looked at the dish and turned around and walked back out and put the pork in the dish. And then he came running back in and ate. But yeah, he is like, and then I went to the pet store. It was like, and he was out of food. And he did have cat food, but he refused to eat it because it wasn't pork. And so I went to the pet store to pick up some pork. And they didn't have it. They didn't have small batch pork. It didn't come in because there's a slowdown on pork. But there is real dog food. They have their cat brand Quest. So I got the pork and the fish of that. And I was just like, I usually don't buy a big bag of a food if it's new, because especially two of them, because my cat is like, nope. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to just go for it. Give him this food. He went crazy for it. I mean, he is devout both the fish and the pork. Just, he loves it. It's like insane. I feel like such a winner because for so long I could not get that cat to eat anything consistently. But now it's just like I come home and I want a damn parade for getting my cat to eat food and be happy about it.
That's always so funny to me when I hear people say whether it's a cat or even that their dogs are picky about things, because I have never had a dog be picky about anything. Those dogs are always like, this is the best thing ever.
Oh, God, I wish. My dogs are picky, and they're annoyingly picky because, like, for instance, when I was trying out BJ's raw food, two of the dogs were like, oh yeah, bring me more. But they're also my two, Scout and Zoe, who are like, I am starving right now. I know I just ate 2 hours ago. I know breakfast is my heaviest meal of the day, but I am starving right now. And then there's the other two, Rodrigo, who's like, I'm old. I don't have to eat. And then Apollo's, he's just sort of like, I don't know what this is, but I refuse to eat it. And which is weird because he's such the get along type of dog. And it's so weird because he went right to raw, no issues. When he came to our house, I fed his first meal outside with me, and I just fed everything by hand so he knew how to eat it. And he was like, okay, this is what we do here. Good, I'm down. And so there was no transition. But man, I put that BJ's raw in his bowl, and he was just like, I don't know what this is or why you're trying to do this to me, but I'm not. And then he walked around and was like, did she do this to you too? Yeah, I don't know why she's doing this to me. Can I taste your, yep, she did that to you too. No, I'm not eating this. And I'm just like, so what? And then like a month later, like today, I have opened the last container of BJ's raw, put it in everyone's dish. And he's just like, oh, wow, yum. Yeah, thank you. And then running around and licking everyone else's dish. It's just like, all right, dude. Ugh.
They're so funny.
I know, right? So I got this really cool comment on YouTube where this woman wanted to know, well, she wanted me to give her recommendations on raw food brands because she just switched her dog to raw and her dog still has allergies. And, I was just like, oh, bless your heart, a true newbie. And I still need to respond to her, but I thought it would be cool to talk to you about, when you were switching to raw, did you have any type of, did you have it in your head that you would see improvements right away, or were you relegated to like, okay, now we'll wait and see type of thing?
Yeah, I've never had any particular outcome in mind. But what I will say is that Penny is the one that we had like the most dramatic improvement, like the most noticeable dramatic improvement right away. And I have these pictures of her from the day that we found her where she's like covered in like scabs and flea bites, and she's like missing patches of fur, and she was a hot mess when we found her. In fact, so the day we found her, we took her to the Barks Animal Shelter, and they had to do a 72-hour stray hold. Mm-hmm. And then I said, well, I'm coming to get her like the minute that stray hold is up. Well, at that shelter, they spay her before you can bring them home. So I had to wait an extra day so they could do the spay surgery. So we go to pick her up, and there's like a whole bunch of us that are all sitting there that are all picking up our animals that we've adopted, and we're like the last ones. And we're, you know, because it's like, oh, they're calling, you know, here's, you know, Chewy, and here's, you know, Spike, and, you know, and we're like waiting and waiting. And, you know, and Tim and I are kind of looking at each other like, oh my God, we're like the last ones. And finally, I forget what her shelter name was. I think it was Pinky, because she was so, like, her skin was so pink. And she's blonde, furred, but, you know, she was so inflamed. And they kind of like come out and they're like, she's a beautiful disaster.
Oh,
apparently, you know, she was in heat. You know, they didn't realize she was in heat when they went to spay her. And, you know, it was like, just everything was, you know, and her skin was such a mess. So anyway, but I have photos, like, within the first, like, 2 weeks, you can see she's already looking better. She's not pink anymore. And, like, within, like, the first, like, 1 month to 2 months, it's like, she looks amazing. Her fur is, like, shiny and soft and no more inflammation in the body. And of course, we had just started her on raw right away. I didn't do any kind of transition period with her. You know, this is what you're getting now. And, you know, and of course we're doing goat milk, and I love colostrum, especially when you first are, like, bringing them home from the shelter and getting them, you know, trying to calm their immune system down and stuff. So, you know, we were doing all that. But yeah, she's definitely the one of our dogs that we saw, like, a pretty noticeable difference. But I mean, it still took, you know, a couple weeks, you know, to a month. And, you know, and she's had other health issues where just feeding raw in and of itself wasn't, like, the magic cure. All of our other dogs, it was much more subtle, but, like, you could tell, like, their fur texture seemed softer and improved. And, or, you know, with our old gals, they were older by the time that we switched. And, but even with them, like, we felt like they first of all seemed more excited about meals. I mean, not that they didn't eat before, but they would, like, go like, oh my god, we're gonna eat that stuff, you know. And, like, and so it was just kind of like seeing them get, like, all excited about things again was the fun part of that. But yeah, I mean, when you're dealing with allergies and a health issue, especially if it's something that's been going on, like, it's going to take a while to, you know, to make a difference sometimes.
Yeah. It's like, there's so many avenues to go to, because it's not just diet. I mean, of course, I'm biased because I love making the food myself. But if you're feeding a commercial food, and depending upon the number of ingredients that are in it, you might be just, no matter how many times you switch food, if there's that one ingredient that's triggering your dog, that's a common in all these foods, you might not be able to feed commercial raw at all. You might have to go to DIY. And then there's things like with my dog, just figuring out his isn't just food, it's food from different areas. So he's like such a special boy. I love Rodrigo. He truly is. And I'm very lucky to have him. It cracks me up because he is like, I consider Rodrigo to have the palate of Billy Hookman. Because like, Billy is the type of person, we've gone out to eat where I'm used to certain questions that he asks, and I will, like, jump in and ask a question. He's like, oh yeah, thanks for asking that. And that's how I think of Rodrigo. And it's because of I made changes to the proteins that I feed to Rodrigo after having eaten out with Billy a few times. Because he's very particular about, like, where is this sourced, and he likes to go to restaurants that have that information on their menus and stuff. And it's kind of a cool thing where I don't often see that where I live here, but I've seen it in different places on the East Coast, and it's kind of a cool thing to have. So I do this with Rodrigo, where he actually has an intolerance to beef, but he does well on grass-fed, grass-finished beef. What a fancy dog. He doesn't do well on chicken, but if it's truly free-range chicken that's not exposed to any chemicals, that eats like mealworms and has a really good organic diet, no grain, does great on that chicken. Same thing with the turkeys that live that way, does great on those proteins. He's a funny dog.
So it's almost not even the proteins themselves. It's just like the chemical exposures of those animals and the diet. That's so interesting.
Yeah. And the thing about it is like, it sounds insane, but I had one of his veterinarians when we were trying to figure out like, what in the world is this dog allergic to? And an allergy test just basically lit up everything. I mean, it was like, it was horrible. And the problem with an allergy test is if your dog is actively inflamed, like everything that's in their diet is going to light up, everything that's in their, it's just not a good way to figure it out. And all of a sudden, I think I found a food. I fed him a food without thinking and realized it was a protein that he wasn't supposed to have, but he did fine on it. And so I kept feeding it and he kept doing fine on it. And the vet was like, if he's doing fine on it, it's fine. So that's when we figured out, the whole grass-fed, grass-finished types of things. And I started feeding him that way. But one thing that was even worse was that there were some products that I was saying, like, it says that they source from grass-fed, grass-finished farms, but Rodrigo can't have this food. And the veterinarian says, well, it's one of two things. It's either they're not really sourcing grass-fed, grass-finished.
Right.
And he was like, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're lying. It could be that for a batch, whatever they're used to doing, they couldn't get, it wasn't available. So they had to substitute something else that wasn't the same quality, or that person misled. I mean, he was like, just try to like, so don't go on your blog and say that they're a liar. And I'm like, okay. But he was like, the way the fields are set up, one property can spray chemicals and do all kinds of stuff, and it blows over to all the properties in the area. And he was like, and your dog can be just that sensitive.
Right.
And it's just like, well, that sucks.
Right.
So I found that for him, like what you said, we saw improvements in the first 2 weeks. It was pretty amazing, but he still had health issues that took a couple years to figure out. And it was one of those where I sometimes wonder, because he was fed kibble for 3 years. He was, vaccinated annually for 3 years. He was I'd use those chemical flea and tick treatments for probably 2 years, because that was like one of the first changes that I made. And maybe it took that long, like I think about 2 years for his body to get rid of any type of toxic residue, if that's a thing, and clear that out of his system to give him a true reset.
Yeah.
So I don't know though, but yeah, it's just like, gosh, on one hand, I think that it's people who start raw feeding today are so lucky because they are benefiting from so much amazing information. But then it's just like, but are they? Because there's so much information.
Yeah. I mean, at least there's a lot more options and it's much more available, and you're somewhat more likely to find like veterinarians who are on board with you. And if not veterinarians, at least a big community online of people who are like, you're not crazy. This is, a good thing. But yeah, sometimes it does take a while. And, you can even look at things like I would be thinking things like goat milk fasting if the dog's not able to take any food in. But that's something I would want to do with a vet and, kind of monitoring. But I mean, there are other options, but yeah, it can be very trial and error.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Even with commercial raw, it can be trial and error, because I mean, when I started with Darwin's, they had 4 proteins. I think they had 5. I don't think they had 5 when I started, but they had the beef, turkey, chicken, duck, and then lamb came later. So that's actually just fine. That's plenty of proteins to start with. This is a company where you can buy from them and not buy from anyone else and be perfectly fine for the life of your dog. But there are some companies that only have a chicken and a beef. And if you want more variety, and I like to feed at least 3 proteins, you're going to have to go outside and go to a different company. Right. And that's where the trial and error comes in, because then you have to find who's available in your area, is affordable for your budget and provides the ingredients that you're okay with feeding to your dogs. And I don't envy people who are going through and reading those ingredient panels. I just finished with the farmer's dog, and it was exhausting.
Yeah. And, just like I remember with Penny when she had this major health flare up a couple years ago with, I don't know if it was allergies, autoimmune, it was a ton of inflammation in her body, and a lot of it was in her feet. And our vet would be like, okay, well, this week do Epsom salt foot soaks. And then the next week do green tea foot soaks, and we would be like comparing like, well, which one seemed to work better? Did one work better than the other? She had 5 sores on this foot and 3, like it was, we were getting that into like the trial and error,
How long did it take for you to figure it out?
It took over a course of a couple months, and it was from when she very first started having issues. It was probably 8 months. I had switched vets in the middle of that, so it was like 6 months of working with the new vet, and that's when we did that whole fecal transplant thing. That was part of it. But she had some other strange things going on that time too. So it took us a while to even get to, like, her spleen had been enlarged. And we had to have an ultrasound. I mean, at one point I thought she had like I thought she might have had hemangio or something because of the way her spleen was presenting. But apparently she just has a large spleen. That's what we found out.
I mean, it's interesting because it's like when it comes to, figuring out what we need to feed our dogs, and I don't know why I always thought that it was so complicated, like just for people who feed raw or cook for their dogs. But it's kind of complicated for everyone, because I would think, well, at least for me, it was even more complicated when I fed kibble because of that long ingredients panel, because I didn't know what any of it meant. I just knew that my dog wasn't feeling well. So I'd switch foods.
Right.
And we'd get about a month of him doing better. And it's like, okay, maybe we got it. But then the symptoms would come back again. And so we had to do it again. And this entire time, I didn't even know. I just assumed that it was the food. I didn't know that it might have been, the environment, or it might have been, there's so many other things that it might have been. And I didn't know any better. But looking back, there's so many things I could have done. I'm glad that I switched him to Rob, and that was a big one. But there are so many things that I could have done to got him relief faster by like focusing on his gut health. And, because I know you mentioned the raw goat's milk fast. And I've always wanted to do something like that. That's something that I would do if I had one dog. It's not going to work with 4 dogs.
4 dogs, yeah.
It's just not going to work in my house. So, today was actually supposed to be raw goat's milk day, but I forgot. So it'll be tomorrow. Or we'll just skip it this week, or maybe it'll be tomorrow. Who knows? But I've heard like really amazing stories about doing that. I know that, dogs can fast for a very long time, but it's not something that I would want to play around with.
Right.
it's like I read something on Google the other day. So guess what, guys?
No, but I knew like there was a veterinarian I knew in our area who, did that with dogs with like inflammatory bowel disease or something when, they weren't able to like keep anything, down, or were reacting to everything. And they did it for like a month or something, and had really amazing, results about it. And there's like a case study and stuff written about it. But
yeah.
Like, I guess I look at that as like an extreme measure, but yeah, we do occasionally not occasionally, but like, once every a week or so, we'll do like, you're just getting goat milk for dinner.
Yeah. It's like, that's as much as I can. I would do it for even longer. Like in the summertime, I'll do it a little more, like, especially if the dogs aren't being very active. If we're just hanging out, like it's hot and we're just hanging out, then they'll just have actually cold bone broth, because I don't know if this is the case, but I always worry that on hot days, drinking milk is kind of gross.
Oh, like it curdles or something.
Yeah, or something. Yeah. But I don't know. Just a little humanization, that's all. But yeah, in the rotational monofeeding book, that was one of the points that they made was, that the author felt that it was a myth that doing a raw goat's milk fast did anything to improve a dog's health. But I know that there are people like there's that milk diet for humans it's the same thing where it was a milk fast, and people claim that that diet helped cure a lot of things. And there are other people that are like, there's no proof that that's actually the case. But it makes sense to me to not only a combination of giving your gut a break and filling it with healthy probiotics. I think sounds like, that's a recipe for good stuff.
And also, am I wrong that it's like a complete food, or it can be like a complete
It's supposed
food?
to be like eggs and stuff.
Yeah.
It's one of those, I think what it is they say the foods that are involved. As I said, I don't want to say that. I was going to say something, but it just sounds so bad. But making babies is the healthiest food. And so it's just like eggs and, milk and what is it? Like afterbirth, and people, I think Maggie, the longest living dog, she used to eat the afterbirth of the cows. And the cows had babies. I know. It's like, it's not something that I have access to.
Yeah.
But
I'm not a farm girl.
But I would love to hear from someone that is savvy enough to like live near farms and being like, I'll take the afterbirth, please. Because it's like, that's there. If you want to talk about something that I would have trouble feeding, it would be the afterbirth of an animal. I would struggle with that. If it came already packaged and stuff where I just had to dump it into the bowl, I'm okay. But if I have to handle
it, freeze dry it or something.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And preferably in like a powder form. So I don't see anything that's going to make me think about what this is.
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Well, there you go. It's nice talking to you, Erin.
Always a pleasure. And of course, if people have topics they want us to talk about, they can message us.
Please do. And I will put how to message us in the description.
Yes, in the show notes, yes. I'm from Baltimore, so it sounds like show notes. I never think I have an accent until I hear myself back.
Yay.
All right, until next time.
See you guys.